Welcome to Thoroughbred 360, insights, stories and strategy from the commercial world of thoroughbred racing with your host, Bruce Slade. Welcome to our review of the performances, the events that had a meaningful commercial impact on our industry over the last week. Episode 2, The Last Cox Plate. Via Sistina victorious, and what a fitting way to have our last race at Moonee Valley. It was the Cox Plate and it was run in true Cox Plate fashion. They took off at the 1,000-metre mark. There was all kinds of pressure on, and very interesting to read on Betfair, who said their in-race betting 100 metres from home had 3 horses at $2 or less. That just showed how competitive the race was, how close it was, and a war of attrition. Terrific for Yulong. They deserve absolutely every success they get. Commercially, they are the biggest player in the market in Australia over the last 5 years. Significantly, we've talked about how important the Hong Kong market is for Australia last week in episode 1. And of course, Yulong represent China, their involvement from an international point of view, that huge investment from overseas in our game by Mr. Zhang and his family has been really important. It's been meaningful. They race lots of horses. They play at every level of the commercial market, at weanling sale, at yearling sale, tried horse sales, the mare sales, of course, and they're active privately too. Not only overseas, where they selected and sourced via Sistina, but also in the stallion market and looking for colts in our domestic market also. Fitting result, I've mentioned their tried horse purchase via Sistina first, but also fittingly, third was Treasure the Moment, a homebred for Yulong. Well done to the team in green and white. Blogsy, Stephen Power. This is how to promote our game. This is the new age of marketing, digital marketing, video content, social media platforms, and someone with the following who has built trust and content that people really enjoy and have a lot of interest in. Stephen Power's been doing a great job over the whole Cox Plate week. He now finds himself, of course, in Derby week and Melbourne Cup week. He's been terrific for promoting Australia predominantly to the UK and Ireland. I can't think of a better bang for buck than his positivity, his coverage of our racing stars, the essentials in our game, the horses, the champion jockeys, the trainers, and of course, he loves a punt, loves a beer, loves having a good time. Well done to the MRC, the VRC for bringing Stephen Power out, and well done to Blogsy himself. Great content, mate, and thank you for showcasing Australia in such a positive light. Looking forward to a bit of content this week. I know he's on a chopper with our own Gay Waterhouse to inspect yearlings at Three Bridges Farm there in Victoria. So no doubt some content to look forward to. Attica, Lindemann, their side Lonhro, and the 1,000-foal rule. The 1,000-foal rule suggests that after 1,000 foals, a stallion's performance drops off. Whether that's something to do with the chromosomal changes in sperm, we're not 100% sure, but Lonhro is a great example of this. Through his first 1,000 foals, he was running at over 6% stakes winners to runners. In his next 800 foals, he's running at 4% stakes winners to runners. In his last 3 crops, they're now 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. He's only left 1 stakes winner. Just so happens to be a very, very good one. Attica winning the Spring Champion Stakes there on Saturday. What a performance. He looks like an absolute star for Godolphin going forward, and a star for Lonhro too, of course. Lindemann, another example of a really good stakes winner inside those, I think he's the fourth last crop for Lonhro. A big win by him too. So Lonhro had a big weekend. As I mentioned, his performance has dropped off with age, but that doesn't stop a good stallion from still leaving good horses And of course, we've seen the Lonhro sire line carry on now through Piero, who sired the second place getter in the Spring Champion in Shangri-La Boy. Well done to all involved. Ghaiyyath and Tagaloa at it again. Last week we highlighted these two up-and-coming middle distance sires with their stakes winners 1 and 2. Well, they've backed that up with new stakes winners this weekend. Ghaiyyath siring his 3rd Australian stakes winner and Tagaloa his 2nd. This brought to my attention recency bias in our industry. From a commercial perspective, recency bias can work very much in your favor, but it can also become a fearsome foe. We do a lot of work around the timing and opportunity stallions have looking forward when we're breeding mares, for instance, to try and get ourselves on the right foot. From a selling perspective, that's important, but also from a buying perspective. You can find value when a stallion is on the wrong leg, so to speak. You can also overpay when a stallion's best crop or best opportunity is currently racing and winning big. A great example of this is in the Yulong stallion roster currently. 2 sires with their oldest crop 3-year-olds, Lucky Vega, Tagaloa. On paper now, both doing a really nice job. But 6 months ago, Lucky Vega on the back of Within the Law, his yearlings were selling for 3 times what Tagaloa's were. Tagaloa now the sire of 2 stakes winners, 4 stakes horses from 40 runners, doing as good a job as Lucky Vega, possibly better. Yet with some information and some forward thinking, his progeny could have been well bought in January, February and March of this year. Flying Artie success. No better example of recency bias working in a buyer's favour than Flying Artie. He was a horse who covered a big first book that netted 6 stakes winners, including Group 1 winners Artorius and Asfura. In his 5th season, on the back of that success, he covered 200 mares at $30,000 plus GST. But here lay the problem for those breeders supporting Flying Artie in that season. In year 2, Flying Artie covered 33% less than his book 1, and in his 3rd book, he netted just 66 live foals, half the number of his first book. And of course, those breeders with 5th crop yearlings to sell felt the hurt of that small opportunity racing at that time. Those yearlings averaging just over $50,000. Of course, we've since learned that Flying Artie is a really decent stallion. He's already netted 2 stakes winners from just 35 runners in that 3-year-old crop, and we know there's more to come. They get better with time and age. Flying Artie doing a really nice job, and Sky Glider very impressive in the Brian Crowley Stakes for his sire on Saturday. The Stardom story. Stardom, of course, won the William Crockett there on Cox Plate Day at Moonee Valley on Saturday. Terrific for Gay and Adrian, terrific for the whole team at Thoroughbred, and lovely to see those famous Cornish family colours, the white with the big red heart, win a nice race for the stable on such a big day. Now, how did Stardom come into our care? Well, this doesn't happen very often in Australia. Thoroughbred team were kind enough to invite Adrian and myself to the farm to pick out a filly from the paddock that Adrian and Gay would like to train. Now, being mindful of what an incredibly generous offer this was, Adrian and I didn't want to come across too strong. We wanted to really respect the level of generosity that was on offer. And it was one of those situations where, we like this filly and we like this filly, and which one do you think will suit us? And we were trying to find that nice middle ground where everyone is happy. Now, it came down to 2 fillies. One filly that looked very sharp and the Thoroughbred team really thought would suit our system, and one filly by Zoostar with heaps of quality, super athletic, great width of pelvis, great gaskins, great push behind, a filly that Adrian and I agreed was the one we'd love to train. In the end, as you should always do in life, We asked for what we really wanted, and the Thoroughbred team kindly delivered. Stardom, she was named, and now a 2-year-old stakes winning filly and a 3-year-old stakes winning filly, and it feels great to be able to repay the faith of the Cornish family of Mel Copeland and all the team there at Thoroughbred. Well done, guys. Napoleonic, massive in the red anchor there on the weekend. Another horse to add intrigue into the Coolmore this weekend. Now I think with the likes of Baywacht and Beedman and Tentris and Hidden Motive and Raging Force and now Napoleonic, this Coolmore is going to produce not only a great race, but probably the hottest stallion prospect in Australia for next season or the season after is coming from this race on Saturday. Napoleonic was dominant. Stakes winner number 2 for Wootton Bassett. Of course, Wootton Bassett, huge loss to our game. He's now the sire of 2 stakes winning 3-year-olds. We know he's a prolific sire of 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and horses that train on over in Europe. But safe to say that in Australia, as they continue to improve, we're going to see more and more of his horses winning at stakes level at 3 and 4 and beyond. Side note, from a commercial trading aspect, a big congratulations to Luke McDonald, of course, brother of James McDonald, who runs Barramel Stud. He purchased Napoleonic's half-sister by Zoostar online just a couple of months ago, and he got a huge bit of commercial upside there with Napoleonic winning on Saturday. Another way to win in this great game. Well done, mate. And on the weekend, one of the most impressive performances was the debut of Everluck in Hong Kong for Mark Newnham. He was heavily backed, he jumped, worked hard, got to the front, led with his ears pricked, but around the home turn, he ran right off the track. I don't know how he got back in position to win the race, but he duly did. And he had everyone, he had social media lit up on Sunday night talking about that amazing victory. We've talked about it before, the importance of Hong Kong for our Australian market, the importance of that Hong Kong interest in the stallions that work there, and that of course has set up Capitalist really well with a nice platform for his colts at the sales at every stage of the way. Stefi Magnetica. Sickening for my team, poor Adrian and Gay on the weekend, beaten in the shadows of the post in 2 $2 million races back to back. But when you're beaten by one as good as Stefi, well, it just feels okay, and that hurt quickly turns to respect when your filly or a filly like Gerringong gets beaten by a star like Stefi Magnetica. She's won over $6 million now. She carries the Cunningham family colours. They love their racing. A big congratulations to them, to Jim Clark, Bjorn Baker, all the team. What an absolute star. And she has another big autumn ahead, no doubt, running for big prize money races. Just shows you have a good one in Australia, they can really earn if you can keep them sound, keep them happy, keep them running well. First 2-year-old winners. Always exciting to see the first 2-year-olds by the young sires come out on the track. And importantly, we're watching to see which of the new stallions are going to make themselves into long-term commercial prospects. Extreme Warrior and Home Affairs got off the mark on Saturday at Adelaide. The Blandford Baron, named after our good friend Nick Taylor at Riverstone Lodge. Of course, he's buying up all the land there around Blandford to add to his empire, and his horse, Blandford Baron, won for Extreme Warrior in Adelaide. Well done, guys. And Home Affairs, of course, had his first winner, a really smart winner, Harvey Warwanger, at Ellerslie in New Zealand, a homebred of Wentwood Grange team. On the board, and now looking forward to seeing where those horses get to throughout the remainder of the season. Vale, So You Think. What a really important horse we lost this last week for Australia. So You Think, a 10-time Group 1 winner. Remembering he won 5 of those Group 1 races here in Australia before heading overseas to win another 5 Group 1 races across England and Ireland. A great flag bearer for Australia, an extremely productive racehorse, an extremely productive sire. He covered over 2,500 mares at Coolmore, resulting in close to 1,800 foals when you take into account what he might have covered this year as well. 66 stakes winners, a terrific stallion. Of course, lots more to come from him in the next few seasons because he's got obviously mares and foal, he's got foals, he's got yearlings, he's got the oil pipeline still to come. Still haven't seen a sire son from him. That possibly looks unlikely at this stage, although there is a little bit of time. But his daughters, that's where he's making a real impact. Already the broodmare sire of 2 Group 1 winners, and of course with his pedigree, so Danehill compatible. And like I say, I think his daughters will be very important to our Australian breeding landscape moving forward. Rest in peace, the horse they called Equine Perfection on 4 legs, and condolences to all the team at Coolmore. That is all for this week's episode. Please, we'd appreciate your feedback. Please give us a follow, a like if you're enjoying the content. We'll be trying to build this out, add guests, that kind of thing moving forward. So watch this space, and thanks for listening.